Welcome back to Spinnerack, and closing up our initial run of buying, selling, and trading tips, we get to trading. Glad you stuck with me this far. Hope you'll stick with me the rest of the way. Okay, trade. More than buying, more than selling, I love trading. I love it. Why? Because it's rare that a trade deal goes poorly. Very, very rare. You buy something, you have buyer's remorse. Oh, I can't believe I spent all this money. You sell something, oh man, I should have sold it more, should have sold it higher. But trades, everybody usually walks away from it very happy. Why? Because you got exactly what you wanted and you let go of something that you really didn't need or want any longer. The best thing about trading, everybody's on board, everybody's above board, and of course, very little money involved with the exception of the shipping. And I'll get into that in a little bit later, but just so we don't forget, don't go cheap on your shipping. Don't go cheap on your shipping. It can ruin your trade deal. First thing, however, is you still have to know what the value is of your comic. For instance, if you see behind me, I have an image of Batman #1, circa 2011, New 52. First Batman #1 since the very first Bat #1 came out in 1939. Now this book really surprised me. I had a few copies and I was surprised to find out that a raw, ungraded copy of Batman #1 was going for up to $100 in certain cases. It was a really, I was shocked. Because I looked at Action Comics 1, Superman 1, other books, with the exception of Suicide Squad, nothing else was really pushing those numbers, and I couldn't understand it. People said, well, it's Scott Snyder on the book and Greg Capullo. I read the first issue. I was like, yeah, so what? Whatever. But I had some copies just sitting there because, like a lot of other people, New 52 came out. I bought some #1s and just put them away and didn't think about them. Now, I've got these particular books over here. Do I want them? Not particularly. Can I sell it? Oh, yes, I could sell it. But hey, there's a whole bunch of other books that I would love to get my hands on. And this is a hot book. And when it's a hot book, what do most guys want to do? They want to buy it so they can mark it up, grade it, and make that extra money. Yeah. But the other good thing is it's a good book to offer up and trade. For instance, this book right here may have about a $60, $70 value in terms of buying it. Maybe at the max $100 value, depending on how good your copy is. But trade is almost double that. This one book right here, I've seen traded for up to 100 other books for somebody else who was looking to fill a collection. The buyer, or rather, both traders came to the table. One trader had Batman #1. The other trader had a load of Superman comics that the guy was looking to replace. He had lost his Superman collection. And so, using the Batman #1, he was able to trade for about 100 Superman comics. Now, all the Superman comics, the other trader wasn't really too unhappy about letting go of because he'd been a long-time Superman collector and he had doubles. And so he let loose all of his doubles. The collector was able to start rebuilding his Superman collection. The other collector was able to get his hands on that Batman #1. Everybody was happy. What happened afterwards? We don't know. But that's a pretty good trade deal because both people understood the value of the comic. The guy who was trading, the Batman, understood, look, this book right over here is my best trading card. And yeah, I'm going to be greedy with it because this is the only trading card that I have. The other guy realized, look, I've got doubles on these books. I don't need them. They're not really helping my collection. If I let them go, okay, I can get my hands on this book right over here, which I could probably use to trade for other stuff as well. Maybe even sell if I really want to make it for the money. Okay. Again, everybody's happy. But the key thing is to know the value of the book that you're trading. You can't trade, say, Daredevil #1 for Batman #1. That is a terrible, terrible trade. Okay, Silver Age books for modern books, especially key Silver Age books for a modern book, just doesn't work. Modern books for modern books, fine. Golden Age for Silver Age, no. They used to need to be in the same age. Pardon me. They need to be in the same age bracket. So a golden book for a golden book work. A silver for a silver, bronze for a bronze. Those books work pretty well. Once you start trading within different ages, you're pretty much just asking for a bad deal and a bad trade because the value isn't necessarily going to be there. Very few modern books have the trade value of a book from a previous age. So make certain that you're trading in the same age. Ask for images of any book that you are going to trade. Don't just go and say, hey, let's see where this takes us. And then you realize, wait, this one's missing a back cover. This one's got a piece missing. Ask for pictures. It's standard practice. What does your book look like? Can I see some images? Front cover, back cover? Can I see the corners? Ask all the questions in the world. Because if you didn't ask them, once you get the book, unlike a sale, a trade deal is pretty much final. Once both people have the books, very hard to get anything back or to trade those back. But I find this very seldom happens in trade deals. For some reason, when it's being sold, a lot of people tend to hide stuff. But on a trade, everybody seems to be off board. It's got a bent here, it's got this, it's missing that. And the other person is usually happy enough just to get the book to complete a collection or for whatever their purposes are. A lot of times they may be even getting it for someone else. But ask questions about any book that you're going to trade and request to see images of what you're trading as well. Make certain that they understand what they're trading. You don't want to trade for Batman #1 only to find out that this isn't Batman #1 first print. This is Batman #1 special edition that came inside the Walmart bag with 2 other books. Be certain of what it is that you're trading and understand what it is that you need to look for in terms of that trade. But aside of that, hey, trading is a wonderful place to be, simply because money is not a factor. And so because of that, the greed level tends to be a lot less, which is a happy place to be when you're a comic book trader. So keeping that in mind, know the value of your book, understand that you need to see images of whatever you're trading. And when it comes time to ship it, don't go cheap on your shipping. The cheapest method to ship books will be media mail, which United States Post Office offers for when you're shipping printed matter. Books, magazines, comics, you can ship all of these things using media mail, and it's a pretty common practice. A lot of guys like to use it. Don't worry about ads on comic books, particularly with older books, as those ads are no longer current. You can't make any money off of them because those ads happened back in the 1970s. If those particular things are things that you were worried about when it comes to shipping a comic book versus media mail. But look, if you did a really good trade deal, you want those books to get to whoever it is that you traded with as quickly as possible. The longer it's in the hands of the post office, the more chance it's going to be banged around, thrown around, and then when it gets there, you don't want somebody unhappy. Even though it is absolutely not your fault that the post office decided to play frisbee and badminton with the comic, or rather with the package, you're the person who's going to be left to blame anyway. And so you don't want that. Spend the money on a good expedited service that's not going to be too exorbitant, especially if you're shipping a lot of books, 50, 60 books. If you can do it flat rate and it's going to cost you $10 and it's a good trade deal, spend the $10. Don't go cheap and then later on you're arguing with this guy about, hey, I'm not going to accept any returns when the book is damaged. And then 2, if you're the person receiving the books, you know what your post office is like. My post office is excellent. I get everything. I've never had a bent book. I've never had anything damaged or banked up. They do a very good job. But a lot of guys, your post offices are terrible. Tell the person shipping to you that your post office is terrible so they can take proper precautions. Don't wait for it to get to you and say, hey, it's all banged up and damaged, and you know this isn't the first time that you've received a banged up or damaged book. Just tell the guy. Guys have told me this before. Hey, my post office is rough and tumble. Could you please pack it in some extra cardboard? Could you put it inside of a box and then put it inside of the bag? No problem. I want the book to get to you. I don't want to hear any complaints. I want you to be happy, and I want to be happy with it as well. So when it comes time to ship them, don't go cheap on it. And again, the more questions that you ask, the more information, the more confirmation, the more you're going to be happy with the returns. You're not going to get something that you don't want, and it's going to be in the condition that you saw in those particular images. And it works out for both ways. So again, trading, I'm so happy that trading is alive and well. It was something that we used to do when we were kids. Built a lot of nice collections based on it. And again, everybody's happy because it's not money. You're actually trading the comic book, which at the end of the day, we all are. We're still comic collectors. So, in a nutshell, know the value of what you're trading. Don't go cheap on shipping, and ask as many questions as you need to feel comfortable about the trade. If the person doesn't want to answer questions, then maybe you want to back off that trade. Anyway, Calvin Ellis here with some trade tips for you. We'll see you next time.